long. I'd say 5 or 6 hours at the most.
This isn't over.
Yes, it is.
Come on, you're gonna need my help, MaXXXine. It isn't ever give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. Come here. Fly!
In a home video from 1959, we see a young girl named MaXXXine dancing. Her father, a priest, watches her with pride, clapping and praising her moves. It's clear that even as a child, MaXXXine understood that she wanted more from life than what was expected of her. Fast forward to 1985, and MaXXXine is now a woman trying to make a name for herself in the world of adult films. She dreams of fame, but isn't sure if this is the path she truly wants. MaXXXine feels like her time in adult films is running out. At an audition for a mainstream movie, she is asked to show her emotions on camera, which she does brilliantly. Then, they ask her to reveal her body, and she complies without hesitation. After the audition, MaXXXine laughs at the other hopefuls and leaves the room. Meanwhile, news reports are buzzing about a terrifying serial killer known as the Night Stalker, who is causing fear in the city. As MaXXXine navigates this chaotic world, she arrives at a strip club called Flight Crew, which is near an airport. There, she finds 2 colleagues preparing for their scenes. One of them warns her that it will soon be her turn to perform. Just as she gets ready, the news keeps talking about the Night Stalker. MaXXXine's friend Amber shows up backstage and complains about how hard it is to work with her. Amber invites MaXXXine to a party in the Hollywood Hills, but MaXXXine declines because she has other plans. Later at home, MaXXXine receives disappointing news from her manager, Teddy Knight. He tells her she didn't get a role in a music video because people only know her from adult films. Feeling frustrated, MaXXXine wonders how she can become famous if no one gives her a chance. While browsing at a video store, she asks the clerk about celebrities who started in horror films and adds herself to the list since she landed a role in Puritan 2. She believes this could be her ticket out of adult films and into stardom. Excited about this opportunity, MaXXXine goes back to work at the strip club, dancing for anonymous men. However, little does she know that one of those men watching her is the Night Stalker himself. After her shift ends, she waits outside for her friend Abby Martin. Abby expresses concern about walking alone at night with the killer on the loose and invites MaXXXine to join her at the party again. But MaXXXine insists she has an audition early in the morning. As they chat while shopping for food, Abby congratulates MaXXXine on her acting ambitions, but warns that horror movies might not lead to big success. Undeterred, MaXXXine believes she can make it big. After Abby leaves in a cab for the party, MaXXXine walks home through dark city streets where news reports continue warning people to stay indoors and lock their doors. Suddenly, while walking down an alleyway, MaXXXine notices a man following her. When she reaches a locked gate and turns back to find another way out, the man pulls out a knife and threatens her. But MaXXXine isn't scared. Instead, she pulls out a gun from her purse and demands he drop his knife. The man tries to excuse his actions by saying he was just playing around. However, MaXXXine decides to play too and orders him to strip down and kneel before her. MaXXXine stood her ground as the man with the knife tried to intimidate her. He even started to suck on her gun, which was strange and scary. He then ordered her to lie down on the floor. But MaXXXine wasn't afraid. She remembered a terrible moment when someone had hurt her friend Pearl, and she wasn't going to let that happen again. With a swift move, she stomped on the man's groin with her sharp stiletto heels, causing him to cry out in pain. After that shocking encounter, MaXXXine sat on her couch watching Puritan, the movie she was in, as if nothing had happened. Suddenly, someone knocked on her door late at night. When she opened it, she saw the elevator doors closing on her floor. On the ground, she found an envelope with a tape inside, specially made for her. Curious, she took it to her TV and played it. To her surprise, it was a recording from 1979 featuring her in The Farmer's Daughter. Just then, Leon woke up and asked what she was watching. MaXXXine quickly turned off the video and hid the tape. Leon knocked on her bedroom door to check if she was okay and mentioned he was leaving. He stepped outside, put on his headphones, and skateboarded away. Meanwhile, in a dark car nearby, John Labatt was talking to someone in the back seat. He mentioned he had found out where MaXXXine was, but warned that they hadn't agreed to do anything crazy. If they wanted his help, it would cost more money. In a large house far away, A man filmed his property and entered a room where he heard crying. Inside were Amber and Tabby, both gagged and blindfolded. Suddenly, Tabby was taken to another location where men searched for their boss. The boss grabbed Tabby by the neck, but she fought back fiercely. The next morning, MaXXXine arrived on the set of Puritan. A woman from the crew asked her to stand still so they could make a cast of her head. While working on it, the woman noticed a scar on MaXXXine's arm. MaXXXine explained that someone had shot her once, something she didn't want to talk about right then. The crew member placed some dough over MaXXXine's face to make the cast and told her to wait while it dried. As MaXXXine sat there waiting, memories flooded back of Pearl's abuse from years ago at a cottage. She remembered Pearl's haunting words, "You'll end up just like me." Suddenly feeling overwhelmed by fear and desperation, MaXXXine tried to rip off the plaster from her face. Meanwhile, detectives Torres and Williams arrived at a cemetery where 2 female bodies had been discovered. They suspected it might be connected to the Night Stalker, but quickly realized it was someone else's doing. As they examined the bodies closely, they noticed strange symbols, an inverted pentagram, a star inside a circle, on both women's bodies. Tabby had it on her back while Amber had one on her cheek. Back with MaXXXine in her car, she took a moment to smoke a cigarette and reflect on that night at the cabin when everything went wrong. A crew member approached her with a script and shooting schedule and warned her that director Liz wanted to see her again. He cautioned that Liz could be intimidating. As MaXXXine started her car, she spotted a piece of paper stuck under her windshield wiper with a phone number written on it, along with an old photo from her school yearbook. She called the number and spoke to a man who gave her an address, but also threatened to reveal secrets about what happened in Texas if she didn't meet him. When MaXXXine arrived at the meeting spot, she met John Labatt, who introduced himself as a private detective. He couldn't tell her who hired him, but started listing names from The Farmer's Daughter's production crew. MaXXXine felt uneasy as he mentioned how haunted she seemed by the past, but denied any connection to the deaths of those women. John then demanded money for his silence about everything, but said it wasn't just about money. He warned that if she didn't follow his orders regarding an important meeting, she might never work in Hollywood again because of someone very powerful behind this threat. After John left, MaXXXine took an envelope he had left behind filled with news about the massacre at the cottage. Later that day, when she returned home, detectives intercepted her again. They wanted to ask about her missing coworkers since she was one of the last people seen with them. But MaXXXine refused to talk. Back in her apartment, MaXXXine searched for that mysterious tape given to her earlier and went to Leon for help figuring out who made it. When he asked what was on it, MaXXXine begged him not to pry too much into it. Leon told her there were no clues about who recorded it or if anyone else had seen it before. MaXXXine was in her car, listening to the news about another attack by the Night Stalker. She felt heavy with worry about her past that just wouldn't go away. When she arrived for her meeting with the film director, she noticed people protesting outside. They were upset about movies with scary themes and adult content. Inside, Liz, the director, suggested they take a walk. As they walked, Liz explained that some directors didn't want MaXXXine in the film because they were afraid of bad publicity. But Liz stood up for her because she believed in MaXXXine's talent. She told MaXXXine a bit about her character and emphasized that she should be ready to do anything for the role. MaXXXine agreed, knowing her future depended on it. Liz took her to a creepy place called Psycho Motel. She mentioned that a horror movie had been filmed there years ago when America was still very conservative. Liz wanted MaXXXine to come back the next day to meet another actress for a scene. But when MaXXXine saw the motel, it reminded her of Pearl's cottage, and she thought she saw Pearl looking out of a window. Noticing MaXXXine's distraction, Liz tried to give her some advice. She told MaXXXine that very few people make it in Hollywood and that she should focus completely on her dream. MaXXXine left the motel feeling uneasy. As she looked in her rearview mirror, she saw John Labatt following her with a camera. Feeling threatened, MaXXXine got out of her car with her house keys clenched between her knuckles and slapped John. He called himself a paparazzi and said he would follow her everywhere. MaXXXine warned him that he would lose more than just his job if he didn't back off. After their confrontation, MaXXXine pretended to see her agent Teddy and barged into his phone meeting to confess something important from 6 years ago in Texas. Teddy immediately hung up, surprised by what she had to say. He asked why she hadn't told him before and assured her he would handle everything, including talking to the detectives. He wanted to help her succeed, even if it got him into trouble. Later that evening, as MaXXXine relaxed at home reading the script for her movie, Leon was at the video store closing up for the night. He said goodbye to a customer but didn't notice that the Night Stalker was still hiding inside. The killer took out a knife and attacked Leon. Meanwhile, MaXXXine woke up the next morning when her phone rang. It was Teddy again, updating her about John Labatt and reminding her to give it her all in filming. Looking out the window, she saw police cars and fire trucks arriving nearby. Worried, she rushed downstairs to find out what was happening. Detective Williams let MaXXXine see Leon's body at the scene, but they wouldn't let her get too close. At the police station later, Williams showed her the bodies of other friends who had gone missing. Torres asked if she knew anything about the Night Stalker since all the victims were connected to her. Williams believed someone was trying to frame the serial killer and pointed out that all the victims were MaXXXine's friends. They pressed her for information, suggesting that she might be involved with the killer somehow. Williams tried to reason with her while Torres warned that if she didn't help them, she could end up like her friends. Feeling overwhelmed and scared, MaXXXine decided to leave because she didn't want to be late for work. As she walked out, Williams called after her, asking for help to stop the killer before another girl got hurt. MaXXXine felt trapped in a nightmare where danger lurked around every corner, but she knew she had to keep pushing forward. MaXXXine told the next actress to save herself, just like she had done while filming. Liz, the director, was busy adjusting the shots when MaXXXine arrived late. Liz didn't want to hear any excuses and warned MaXXXine that if she was late again, she would be replaced. Then Liz introduced her to the leading lady of the film, Molly. Molly pulled MaXXXine aside and gave her some advice. She said MaXXXine should follow Liz's instructions closely if she wanted to keep getting roles. Molly understood how hard it was for MaXXXine and hoped to be recognized for her talent one day. After their chat, Molly left for a producer's party in the Hollywood Hills. MaXXXine wandered around the studio and suddenly ran into John Labatt. This time, he had a gun and seemed ready to make her pay for something. He started chasing her, and MaXXXine quickly decided to hide among the film sets. She darted in and out of different sets until she found herself at Psycho Motel. John was ready to follow her inside when a guard stopped him. The guard told John he couldn't be there, but John tried to play it cool, saying he was just fascinated by the place. When the guard asked for his entry pass, John pretended he didn't know where it was and walked away with the guard. Meanwhile, Liz called MaXXXine to tell her that she wouldn't let anyone ruin her career as a director. She advised MaXXXine to take the weekend off to rest before filming started on Monday. Liz reminded her that she needed to get rid of distractions. Later, MaXXXine prepared for her performance as a dancer at the club. We saw John looking for her at the location where she danced. She lured him into the bathrooms, but when he searched for her in the stalls, he realized she had escaped through a window. Furious, he rushed outside but was ambushed by Teddy and another man. When John regained consciousness, he found himself handcuffed in a car. Without wasting time, they pressed a button that began crushing the car around him. Even though he didn't believe in God, he started praying for a chance to explain himself, but no one was listening. Meanwhile, MaXXXine was at home taking a shower. She decided it was time to put that dark chapter of her life behind her. But as she watched the news about the Night Stalker, she remembered what Detective Williams had asked her earlier. She also recalled that both of her deceased friends had gone to the same party that Molly Bennett was attending. Determined to find answers, MaXXXine decided to go to that party's address in the mountains while being followed by detectives. When she arrived at the location where her friends had been held captive, she climbed upstairs and heard her father's voice from an old recording of her childhood. In front of her stood the door from which her friend's murderer had come out before. Slowly, she approached it and opened it. Inside, she found a recording of her father talking about how hard it had been for him to find her. He then took away her gun and told her he was making a movie with her as the star. Her father spoke about how Hollywood had changed young people into predators and perverts. He believed that together with other parents who felt the same way, they could stop this evil influence on youth. But then things took a dark turn when MaXXXine stumbled upon a suitcase that fell down the stairs, revealing human limbs and Molly Bennett's head inside. Horrified by what she saw, MaXXXine's father took advantage of her shock and put a plastic bag over her head. They struggled as MaXXXine fought for air until she collapsed on the floor and slowly stopped moving. Next, we see footage of MaXXXine auditioning for Puritan 2. She stood up confidently and told everyone they should hire her because she was an incredible star who would soon be famous. But then everything shifted. Several spotlights shone on MaXXXine as she found herself gagged and surrounded by followers of her father. MaXXXine's father told her not to be afraid. He promised to give her what she always wanted, worldwide fame that would last forever. He said that he tried to help her friends, but because they didn't accept God's love, they had to suffer. Unlike them, MaXXXine would be saved. As the camera started rolling, MaXXXine's father announced that he would document an exorcism as a miracle for everyone to see. He recited a Bible verse and claimed that MaXXXine's possession would expose Hollywood as a cult that lured innocent young people into a life of sin. He shouted that the devil was real and that he was going to save all the children of the world. He approached MaXXXine and told her to play along because his big scene was coming up. He grabbed her head and demanded that she confess to be saved by divine intervention. He warned her that if she didn't, she would be marked with an inverted star. Just as he was about to touch her face with the hot star, detectives burst in. Torres, holding his gun, ordered everyone to move aside, making it clear he meant business. Williams followed him into the scene. MaXXXine's father urged his followers not to respect the detectives, claiming they were part of the devil's darkness. He encouraged them to fight for God and protect their family. Suddenly, as the fire burned around them, his robe caught flames. In a panic, he jumped into the pool to escape the fire. In the chaos, MaXXXine felt helpless as she watched her father flee. He managed to cut the ropes, binding his hands with a hidden knife. One of his followers pushed MaXXXine into the pool, but she fought back and used the knife to defend herself. Torres rushed off to find the leader of this strange group, while Williams warned MaXXXine that help was coming. She spotted a gun on the ground and picked it up, chasing after her father and the detectives toward the Hollywood sign. Torres, badly hurt, asked MaXXXine to put pressure on his wound while Williams went after her father. With his last breath, Torres confessed that he had always wanted to be an actor. MaXXXine ran to help Williams stop her father. When she reached the Hollywood letters, she saw Williams badly wounded but still fighting. He told her that her father was trapped. Suddenly, Williams fell down a slope, and MaXXXine caught up with her injured father on the ground. He begged for her forgiveness, believing he had created a monster. Just then, reinforcements arrived. The news reported that after a year of searching, they had finally captured the real Night Stalker. The anchor welcomed MaXXXine for an interview with her lawyer, Teddy. She talked about how hard it was to kill her own father, but expressed gratitude for being alive. Finally, MaXXXine achieved her dream of being a recognized star. She sold the rights to her story, which would be turned into a movie directed by Liz. She encouraged all women watching her not to accept lives they didn't think they deserved. As she remembered her father's last words, that he always gave her what she needed, she felt mixed emotions about their complicated relationship. A month later on set, Liz asked MaXXXine how it felt to be so close to success. MaXXXine replied with hope in her voice, saying she wished it would never end.